Paolo Banchero, 50 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists. 37 of 50 came in the first half. Tied the most as T-Mac when he was with the Orlando Magic. Terrific performance, the best performance of his young career so far. I'm here with Jasmine Pollack. You know, my she's from Florida, and I just had to get her for this particular subject. But wow, this guy is a tremendous performer. In his third season, already doing big things. He played well in the first game against Miami. Kind of slowed down the second and third game.
Yeah,
Boy, against the Pacers, he was in the zone.
yeah, he was. And when you look at this Orlando Magic team, we saw what they were last year, right? They made the playoffs. They played the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. They took them all the way to Game 7. So you can see this. This is a young team that is on the rise. And with Paolo, he is their face. Having a 50-point game in the NBA is a huge accomplishment. When you crack those numbers, especially when you hit that level of offensive scoring, you're going to be looked at like, well, this guy can really do it, and he's putting the league on notice. And when we look at the Orlando Magic, this is a young team that is ready to compete in the East. And we saw them. They were a playoff team last year, and I expect them to be a playoff team this year. They got to just continue winning if they want one of those high seeding. But Paolo, that was a great performance as a young gun in this league, a young buck in this league. For him to do that in a stage like that, I get it's early, but you want to give the league notice. You want to say, hey, I can do this. I can score 50. So what's gonna stop him from, okay, I'm gonna try to go 60, especially in this new NBA. Definitely, that was a phenomenal performance by him.
And he did this against a team that is a playoff team that went to the conference finals last year.
Yeah,
So you have that, and plus he shot 61% from the field, which was unbelievable.
he was on.
And he's the second youngest to put up 50 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Yeah,
He's the second youngest. The one who did it the first was LeBron.
LeBron. Yep.
LeBron's against it, and he's a second. So that's an amazing elite company that he's in. But he's the motor of this team. This
Yes.
team goes as long as he goes.
Yes.
And we have to give a shout out to Jalen Suggs. He dropped 25
Yeah.
against the Pacers. So this Magic team, we have Suggs, we have Banchero, we have France. This team is on the rise.
Yeah, and also them acquiring Kadarius Cartwell Pope from the Denver Nuggets, who him he is the only one of the only two players, Cartwell Pope, the only two players to have two rings since 2020. One with the Lakers, and then of course we know one with Denver. So you add that veteran experience to this young team, coming off the bench, adding defensive shears, also hitting those big time shots. So they have weapons on all cylinders on the bench, coming off the bench, and things like that starting. So when we look at this Orlando Magic team, they are very scary. They are very scary, and as they prolong in the season, they're only going to get better. They're only going to start going more. They're going to start learning adversity and things like that, because this is going to be a long season. We know that this is early in the season. It just the season just started last week, so they're heading into that. But for the Orlando Magic, they are really making noise, and like you said, I agree. He is their drum. He is the one that makes them go, and you need that in a team right now. But not only that, for if he does have an off game, you have Franz. You have all these other guys that can step up and score, that can give you those useful minutes defensively and offensively to get them over the hump in a win. So this is what this Orlando Magic team is: very deep, very young, and they're very well coached.
They're one of the best young defensive teams there. They're lengthy, they have size. And boy, oh boy, when I saw this last year, I'm saying, oof. I mean, I saw it
Yeah.
before everybody started talking about how potential this Orlando team Magic willing to be.
Hmm.
But boy, oh boy, it is fun. It's fun to watch them. Um, I wish I was around and I wish I was old enough to see this happen, but this is like we're seeing like the modern version of that young, exciting '90s Magic team with Shaq and Penny
Yeah.
were there. So obviously, those are two separate things. But in terms of succeeding so young, so early, this Magic team could do the same thing in the East,
Yes.
because the East is competitive, but never like the West. The West is always stacked.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but it's gonna be interesting to see this team. They definitely, I could feel they go into the playoffs. But if they could stay away from playing like they did last year, you know,
Yeah.
they're they're
If
saying
they keep
they're
winning,
they're
yeah.
basically saying, why not us? Why not now? So,
Right.
that was the mentality the Magic had in the '90s.
And they're building that culture back. It's the biggest thing, when I say when you have a team, whatever sport it is, when you are trying to, if you're a team that, years ago, decades ago, you could have been one of the best teams, or if not the best team, and you had a drought, you want to get a coach, you want to get a general manager, you want to get a system in place to build that culture. It starts with the culture first. And then you go get the players that fit within that culture. So when you look at this, Orlando Magic is building that back again. And especially we are in, and the Orlando Magic is not, if not the smallest market NBA team right now. And you you know what that does now that, okay, they made the playoffs last year. They have Paolo, who is the face of this team, who can score. They're very flashy. It's Orlando. Now you're going to have more people like, well, this Orlando Magic team, who was kind of like, the little brother, in the state of Florida, because we know Miami Heat's been, dominant for a decade here in the state. But now you add this is a very big deal for the Tampa Bay area, and I'm in the Tampa Bay area, and seeing that you're going to have a lot of people in tune now, not just with hockey or football. Now we're like, oh, we got a basketball team that's competing now, and people are going to want to travel and see that and things like that, especially in the city of Orlando, where it has a lot of attraction anyway. So it's a big deal. So this is a very big moment for the Orlando Magic. And this is not just a 1 or 2 year thing. This is going to be, as long as they keep this core together, this team is going to be around.
They got to keep the core together, and they got to keep the head coach there too.
Yes.
Because when you have a young team and you constantly fire and hire coaches, that
Mm-hmm.
is not going to take them nowhere.
Yeah.
Now, so a player that I feel that he's underrated, and I like him as a role player, and he's a former Denver Nugget as well, and that's Gary Harris. I like him.
Yes. Yes. They have they have weapons that can go off at any moment. That's the thing. When you look at the Celtics last year, they won the championship last year. They had so many guys firing on all cylinders. So many guys. And that's what the league is right now. We're not in that, league anymore where you have one person just dominating, or you have two-person. It's like you can have your two-headed monster, but then you have a great supporting cast that can also get hot at any moment. So when I look at that, you get those guys from Denver who have that championship experience, who have won, who have, been in those very heated battles in the playoffs, and you add that to a young team, that is very, very helpful for a Paolo, for friends, those guys that need that, like, oh, you know what it's like to win. You know the verbiage, you know the energy. You can keep, when we get in those moments, you can keep us level-headed and calm down. So this is a big deal for the Orlando Magic. I'm really excited for them.
Yeah, every team that wants to win, you gotta have a young core, or else you make sure you have some veteranship.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, and the Magic had that back in '95 when they had a young Shaq, a young Penny, Nick Anderson. They brought in championship experience in Horace
Yes.
Grant. He won 3 titles with the Bulls in the first three
Bulls,
peat.
yeah.
So when he came to Orlando, he said in the 30 for 30 episode, he only saw championships. That's when he came to Orlando. And at the time they came to Orlando, Jordan had just retired, economics in basketball. And then he saw potential dynasty in Orlando.
Yeah.
It didn't play out that way, but he made a smart business decision at that time.
Right, exactly. And is this new Orlando Magic team mimicking that a little bit? Maybe that same philosophy, and maybe now we want to win now, and make it work and make it stick. Because, like I said, I look at the Eastern Conference right now. Outside of Boston, I'm still concerned with Philadelphia. They're injury prone. Paul George is injured. We don't know if Embiid is going to be always a go for games. You look at Milwaukee. Milwaukee right now is not that same Milwaukee team we saw. Doc Rivers and them not getting this team together. The Knicks, okay, but outside of Boston, this is it's still gonna be tough, but I like the Magic's chances. I do like their chances. Now, if they were in the West, it'll be a little different because the West is superbly stacked. But the East, this is very attainable for them, very attainable for them. And then I think right now for the Pacers, and me being that they played the Pacers and Paolo had this great performance against them. I look at the Pacers and I feel like they're taking a step back. Not saying they can't get back to that, but Tyrese Halliburton, he hasn't been the Tyrese Halliburton we've seen last year. Now it's more so, I'm seeing some very bad games, even when he played even in the Olympics, not starting and certain things like that. And just, there's been a lot of questionable things regarding his play. Not saying he can't, but is that going to be consistent? It's all about consistency. So when I look at the East right now, if the Magic continue this run and they continue to do what they need to do and how they're performing, I give them a real shot to be one of those top seeds in the East.